tonight's common council meeting for September 24th, 2024. Clerk will call the roll, please.
Tauschek.
Here.
Herman.
Here.
Matsdorf. Here. Gilson.
Here.
Hildebrand.
Here.
Penkwitz.
Here.
Binder.
Here.
Nelson.
Here.
Let the record show we have a quorum. Next is the pledge. Please stand. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll, please.
Nelson.
Yes.
Hildebrand.
Yes.
Matsdorf.
Yes.
Penkwitz.
Yes.
Tauschek.
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
Binder.
Yes.
Gilson.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Item 4 is the audience portion where we ask people to sign in and be recognized. That's where you do the talking and we do the listening. Tonight we have one person who signed up, Pete Schreierman. Pete?
Good evening.
Out of order. Oh, wait a minute.
For a while. I was just gonna, kind of like I came, I would just leave. But it's come October 1st, you guys are gonna have a new face in our office. They've been, Brian and his secretary have been by a couple times, and she'll be back tomorrow and maybe Friday, and that you'll be in good hands. But we're not gonna go anywhere, as physically, some people retire and off they go. So I just thought I'd stop in and attend a meeting and just say thank you to the council. It's always been really good to me. Our police department, there's been, from the day I walked through the door, there's different things that I need from them, whether it's information or I need somebody that can just be there, because there's sometimes you get in uncomfortable situations, and without a hesitation, who's ever in charge, they said, we'll have an officer there for you. Fire department, and the people in the city of Plymouth, it's been great, and thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item 5, no items were removed from the consent agenda. Moving on to item 6, proclamation of the City of Plymouth Community TV 14. The chair will entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Tonight we have with us the voice of TV 14, as I like to call it, Mike Briggs. Mike, you've been around a long time. And almost, well, no, longer than Pete, but I want to read this. I don't always read these, but tonight I have to read this. Whereas Plymouth Community Television TV 14 serves the Spectrum subscribers in the surrounding area with quality programming on channels 14 and 20, and their 1,240 subscribers on YouTube. And whereas Plymouth Community Television covers select homes and away varsity sports at Plymouth High School, Plymouth School Board meetings, City Common Council meetings, parades, stock car races, and church services. And whereas TV 14 hosts sit-down interviews with local leaders called Action 14 and interviews veterans on the show called Vet to Vet. And whereas Plymouth Community Television has served the Plymouth community since 1983 and staffs 8 to 9 part-time employees. And now therefore be it resolved that I, Donald O. recognize the Plymouth Community Television for their dedication to bringing quality and accessible programming to the community. Set this forth today, September 24th, 2024. Congratulations, 40 years.
Yep.
I was invited to say a couple things, so first of all, I should thank the city. The reason we've been here 40 years, I should also mention before that Gary Kaiser and myself started this. We were part of this when it started 40 years ago, and how it has changed over the 40 years is unbelievable. From VHS tape, all right, when we started out reel to reel, and we hired someone to sit in the studio and put the VHS tapes in and push play every night. How it has changed today, and it's been a challenge, all the changes, I get that. But today, because of YouTube, we have many, many more people watching many different items that TV 14 puts out there. Because Plymouth Community Television has everything on YouTube that Grandpa and Grandma in Michigan can watch. Their grandson playing football or basketball here in Plymouth. My youngest son lives in Tokyo. He was watching wrestling on that we filmed. It is that easy now. We can have that many they aren't subscribers. Understand that the money that we get is still from cable people. And the city has benefited greatly over the years also from that, because we only have maybe 40% of what comes in from cable. The rest goes to the city and sponsors many, many different things. But anyway, it's been a great 40 years. I still enjoy it. I still end up talking to a few people that are, I won't say boring.
Thank you.
But it's always been fun. I've enjoyed it for 40 years, and I hope to enjoy it for a few more, okay? But thank you very much.
Thank you. Excellent. Thank you, Mike. Moving on to item 7, resolution number 10, consideration and possible action on resolution creating tax incremental district number 7, approving its project plan and establishing its boundaries. I'll call on our city administrator, Tim Blakely, to start the conversation. Tim?
Yeah, I'm going to give a brief rundown, and then I'm going to introduce Phil Cosson with Ellers, who you have met a number of times before, to give a rundown of the TID project plan. So following the closure and really enormous success of TID number 4, we have been working to create TID number 7. This is a proposed multi-use district, approximately 246.47 acres, which Phil will sort of map out for us, and I'll pull up on the screen shortly. We've again worked with coordination with Ellers, SEDC, Brian Dowden is here tonight, to really develop this framework, which is planned to include a single-family development, multifamily development, commercial development, and significant public infrastructure improvements for the community. Again, TID 7 is created to support these costs, public infrastructure projects, property acquisition and site prep costs, development incentives, and other project costs. Again, as required by state law, a TID must pass the but-for test, or the city, and without that, the city would be unable to undertake the program of improvements outlined in the draft project plan. So the TID 7 does meet the following outcomes of the city's strategic plan: expanded economic development, TIF district utilization, and then increased housing options for all. So that's just a brief admin summary. I'm going to pull up on my screen the TID project plan, and we'll have Phil give a rundown. So Phil Cosson will take it away.
All right, thank you, Tim. Mayor, council members, good to be back with you. I'm hoping the applause that we've been having continues when I'm done. And I figured Pete came back really to hear me one more time, right?
Absolutely.
All right, so, well, I know this is relatively new for some of you. I was here a couple months ago, and I did kind of a TIF 101
I also spoke to you about each of the existing districts that you have open as well. So, and it kind of prompted you that this was coming, that we're working on tax increment district number 7 in the city. Before I get too far along, I want to introduce Paul Baney, who is with Ellers also here in the audience. He's relatively new to our firm and knows Tim very well from his administrator days. So, well, TID number 7 project plan, and Tim gave a really nice overview of kind of how it fits within kind of the goals and objectives of the city. And so I'll walk through this in a little bit of detail and not try to read this to you. We'll be here all night long. So if you go up one section, maybe a little reminder for all of you that haven't been through this, or if you haven't, it's been a while. This is really step number 2 of the approval process. So back on September 5th, Kayla Thorpe was here along with Paul, and they presented this project plan, held a public hearing, and a resolution was approved that night, which then moved it on to the council. So your second action now for the TID approval will happen at City Council. And then it'll go back to the Joint Review Board, which is a representative of the school, county technical college, the mayor, and a citizen rep sits on that board as well. So they will, if it's approved tonight, act on that on October 2nd. So that is scheduled as well, but again, if it's not approved tonight, then we'll have to kind of go through the steps again. So as Tim indicated, if you go into the executive summary, we do provide kind of a quick summary. I'll jump into some of the finer points of this as we get into it. But again, a mixed-use district, and really what that means is that you have 2 land uses that are required to be at least 50% of the area. Here we actually do have residential, we have commercial in this area, so we have plenty of capacity under each of those to meet that 50% threshold. 246 acres, a relatively large district, in part because of 2 factors. One, we have to have contiguous boundaries, so all the boundaries have to touch, and we'll show you a map in a little bit. And then 2, we do have quite a bit of housing that is being proposed in this area. We'll talk about those in a little bit, and that can only comprise 35% of the area by acreage. And so, as a result of that, we had to pull in some additional parcels to be able to get to that, no more than 35% of the overall boundary being what's considered newly platted residential. We do have some newly platted residential proposals that are moving forward. So, it'll be also allowed to be up to a 20-year tax increment district. That's the maximum life for a mixed-use district. Under the estimated total project cost, not to scare you, but we're showing about $27 million in costs. Again, not to scare you. This does not mean, if you approve this, that you're automatically writing a check for $27 million to do all the projects. Every project still has to come back to the city council for approval. That doesn't change at all your normal process. This just makes the projects identified in the project plan eligible to be paid with TID $7. So instead of coming from the general levy, water utility, sewer utility, it's gonna come from the TID 7 fund over time. And then in here you can see we have a breakdown by purpose, which include public infrastructure, development incentives, and some interest costs, and some professional service fees that are tied to it. What are you getting for that? Well, we have a variety of developments we'll be talking about in a little bit, but about $70 million in new value that is expected to be created out there as a result of tax increment district number 7. Some exciting projects. It's going to be a variety of housing opportunities in the city to meet some of the different needs that you have, along with potential commercial development in this area as well. And again, we are showing that it's going to take the full 20 years essentially to close out the district. So Tim, if you can jump to page 7. Here's a map showing the boundaries of the district, and it's extensive. As you can see, it wraps around kind of the main corridor of the city, along with right off of Highway 57. There are some elements in here that were brought in again to meet that 35% newly platted test, but again, we have to be contiguous, and when we looked at the SCEDC development, potential Wangar development, potential senior housing development, again, we had to get a little bit, more aggressive and pull in some additional property, to be able to meet the thresholds that are spelled out and required per statute. So the map took on kind of a life of its own, through the process, and we kept adding additional acreage. Now, we do think also some of the other areas, if you will, have the potential for redevelopment and development as well. They're not really reflected in the project plan, but again, if something develops in this area or is improved, you collect the new taxes, and that becomes revenue to the TIF as well. So that's the boundaries, as they have been laid out. On page, section number 4, 2 pages in from there, there's the project list, or being the parcel list, and it's extensive again, 246 acres. We are required to identify every parcel that is located within the tax increment district, along with owner, parcel number, valuation, land use, etc. So you can see it's a long, rather detailed analysis of each of the parcels within the TID. But partly why we do this, again, is we need to demonstrate to the Department of Revenue when we submit this that it meets all those criteria we talked about. Again, no more than 35% newly platted. So that's part of this calculation that's really hard to read on that screen. But trust me, we make that calculation as part of this as we go through it. If we go to the next page, equalized valuation test, as Tim alluded to, you did close out a very successful large district, kind of in the same general area, TID number 4 recently, and that has brought the city under what's called the 12% test. So, what is the 12% test? 12% of the total value of the community, if you exceed that, which you were for the last couple of years, exceeding that number, that's not a bad thing, just means you couldn't create a new district. And you couldn't amend the boundaries of existing districts. So you're what's called TIF'd out, meaning you didn't have capacity to take on any new tax increment district type projects. Once TID 4 was closed out, you fell well under the 12% test, and now you have that capacity rebuilt as part of this. We are identifying in the project plan a couple of items. If you go to page 17, Tim, thank you. A couple of the items that are considered half-mile radius improvements. And so, you know, even though we have a large district area here, there are projects that we have earmarked that are just outside the boundaries of the district that can be paid for out of the TID fund, if there is funds available. And the 3 projects that were identified as the East Side Sewer Interceptor, Eastern Avenue and Carr Road intersection improvements, and then the Eastern Avenue and Highland Avenue single upgrades. And you can see they're kind of slated for some later years once there's revenue in the TID fund. But these are now becoming, if the TID is approved, they become eligible to be paid for out of the TID fund as opposed to, again, being paid through the general levy and or through the utilities. So we have to, again, per statute, identify and specifically list out half-mile radius improvements, and so I wanted to at least point those out to you. If you go to page 19, you can see another requirement that's really hard to see on that screen is that we need to show where all the location of the expenditures will be made as we know it. Now, keep in mind, we're creating a 20-year district knowing that things will change, right? They'll probably change tomorrow once this is created. And the nice thing about the TIF law is it gives you the flexibility to amend the boundaries up to 4 times, and you can amend the project. So as things develop out here and just say there's additional sewer capacity needed or a water main extension needed, whatever it is, you can go back in and identify those as new projects in the TID plan, but you have to go through this process to amend the district. You still have to go through the same approval process. But again, it's not a static document. It's actually a document that can be amended over time. And so what we have right now is identifying those projects as we know them and as they are listed in the project plan. We show the half-mile radius buffer on the next map. And again, the projects that we talked about, those 3 projects that were half-mile radius, not in the boundary, they have to fit within that half-mile radius, so we need to demonstrate that as well. So on section 8, page 22 is the project costs, and you can see they're extensive. So we have development incentives. One of the projects we'll be talking about later on in closed session, but we have started at least tentative negotiations with other potential developments as well. Before any incentives can be paid, you have to have a development agreement signed. And so again, rest assured that you're not just saying, okay, we're approving a project plan and now we just can start writing checks to developers. There has to be approved development agreements, which will come back to the city council as well. So while we're negotiating and working through those agreements, everything will still come back for your approval through that process. Public infrastructure is identified along with principal on projected long-term debt, and that's how we get to that roughly $27 million in costs. So what projects are out there that are being discussed? On the next page, under the development assumptions, go down one more page, thank you. Wangard development out of Wangard Partners, out of the Milwaukee area, is proposing a multifamily development, about 156 units in this area. We will be having additional discussions later regarding their proposal. SCEDC, Brian Dowden is here from SCEDC, is looking at building a comparable project that they are building in Sheboygan Falls. So single-family homes, more, I know starter homes is the wrong term, Brian, what's the right term? Lifestyle?
Entry level.
Entry-level homes, okay, everybody has a
Starter
different.
homes works.
Okay, all right, so everybody has their own terminology for it, but I worked with Brian in Sheboygan Falls on their project as well. So they are proposing, again, about 90 housing units at about $27 million in value. So you can see, simple math, $300,000 average home for each home. Commercial development, we continue to have discussion regarding some different potential commercial housing projects. Commercial development projects will, if that moves forward, that'll be brought forward. Again, we're still in discussions in regards to that project. There's discussion about a senior housing project that will be potentially adjacent to the SCEDC project by a different developer, which will be targeting senior housing at a value of about $6 million. Seems to be a very not a sure thing, but they're very interested in moving that forward in the city, so very exciting. Now you're really dealing with apartments, some starter homes, and some senior housing all in that area. And then we know there's gonna be some future development throughout the area because it's a pretty broad area. So we expect we'll see some additional development occurring as well. So that's how we got to that roughly $69 million in valuation. Again, we're pretty far along with 2, if not 3 of those projects, which is really exciting for the city. Couple of assumptions that we make when we go through this process. Thank you. You're jumping ahead perfectly, Tim. 2 of the assumptions that I wanted to just talk about briefly. We do expect, because a lot of this is housing, that we're going to continue to see some just valuation growth. And so we're projecting a 1% valuation growth on the new development that occurs. So we're not assigning that valuation growth to existing value that is out there, but rather on the new growth that occurs. And that's additional revenue that comes in to be able to pay for these costs. But in return, we are also showing that we're a declining tax rate. Now, that's declining equalized tax rate, because the TIF world works in equalized valuation. So fair market value and we think that we're gonna continue to see some pressure downward under levy limits I don't think it'll be what we've been experiencing the last couple of years, where we've seen just fantastic valuation growth throughout the state, just property values increasing. I think that'll level out, which is really what we're showing here. But to be conservative, we do show that we're gonna see a continued slight decline in the mill rate going forward. Again, just trying to be a little more conservative in our assumptions. Table 4, page 27 is our cash flow, and one thing I can tell you is it will look nothing like this when it's all said and done. But we have to look at 20 years, you know, let's take our best guess. We try to get very conservative in the assumptions used. When we start talking about debt issuance and those kind of things, we're making estimates on interest rates, we're making assumptions on valuations, we're making assumptions on tax rates. You can see there's a lot of assumptions built into here. One of the things that every municipality that has tax increment districts is required to do is hold an annual meeting with the other taxing bodies. That's when it's your opportunity to kind of update them on what's happening with your tax increment districts. Obviously, we're engaged in part of that process to make sure you have the most updated cash flows as well. So this is a snapshot today as our best guess as it'll work out. And you can see it takes the full 20 years to pay out through the life of the district. The last couple of pages in the project plan are all sections that are required to be in the project plan, including annexed property. Here we're not annexing any property. How much land here is going to be devoted when it's all said and done to retail business? You know, again, it's a pure guess. We said less than 35%, but again, it's an estimate. We know there'll be some zoning change and master plan changes probably to realize the different developments you're talking about. So that's been built into here as well. We're not relocating any businesses or individuals as part of this. That's a requirement in here. And then we're required to list non-project costs in section 15, meaning costs that are not going to be picked up through the tax increment district. And we think that a portion of the sewer utility will transfer funds for the east side sewer interceptor. So some of it will be paid through TID, some likely through the sewer utility as well. And then finally, the second last page is a letter of opinion that came from the city's municipal attorney. Again, their review isn't necessarily to take a look at it and say, this development agreement works or this project works. They're looking at statutorily, does it meet all the criteria and requirements that are part of that are required as part of a project plan. So their letter is in there, and then the last page really looks at build out. When you look at the overall increment, how much would have been distributed to Sheboygan County, the City of Plymouth, Plymouth School District, and the Technical College over the life of the district as well. So some of these are just elements that are mandatory to be part of a TID project plan, and we have in here as well. So that's relatively quick, but I think great news for the city that we're as far along as we are with some of the developments. Nice variety of development as far as housing already kind of lined up, and then hopefully some commercial that will come behind it.
Thank you, Phil. We appreciate the quick review and analysis. It certainly is exciting for the city to have another TID district on the table to form. And at this point, the chair will entertain a motion so we can discuss the approval of resolution number 10 regarding TIF district number 7.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 10.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? The chair will also allow discussion with Phil, who has been our constant advisor for a long time, and we appreciate his service for that. Hearing none, clerk will call the roll, please.
Hildebrand,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Pankwitz,
Yes.
Mattsdorf,
Yes.
Tauschak,
Yes.
Gilson,
Yes.
Binder,
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phil,
Thanks, Phil.
appreciate it. If I might back up and interrupt a minute, Anna, did I ever call for a yea or no vote on the proclamation? Okay, let's back up and fix the record quickly. We had the proclamation, we went through that, and we had a first and a second. All in favor of approving the proclamation, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Proclamation is approved. Thank you. Sorry for not catching that sooner. Thank you. Moving on to item 8, new business, approval of Mill Pond construction agreement. Tim, would you give us a summary on that, please?
Sure, I'll give a brief summary. In 2015, the city of Plymouth did receive notice from the Wisconsin DNR requiring that the spillway of the Mill Pond Dam be brought into compliance within 10 years. That's 2025. As part of the 2023 budget, we did include funds to hire an engineering firm to assist in deciding whether to remove the dam completely or make the necessary upgrades to meet the DNR regulations. At the Common Council meeting in February 13th, 2024, we did approve Resolution 1 to replace the Mill Pond Dam and also Resolution number 2 which authorized the city to participate in the Wisconsin DNR Municipal Dam Grant Program. At the same meeting, council did approve moving forward with the design of the hydraulic crest gate dam. And as part of the state budget, we were awarded a $1 million earmark grant from the state. In early June, we did receive some additional good news that the city was awarded an additional matching grant of $640,000 for the grant for the dam project, which is obviously very exciting. We have been working with Ayers Associates on the design and engineering of the project. So access is available for the work on the eastern side of the project since it's owned by the city. The western edge of the project is owned by a private party at 623 East Mill Street. To properly construct the dam and provide for future maintenance, the following items are required at 623 East Mill Street. Soil borings to ensure proper engineering, temporary use of the entire parking lot during the 3 months of dam construction, an indefinite permanent easement on the east side of 623 Mill Street for future maintenance. So the agreement that was sent Friday, and also you have paper copies in front of you today, between the city and the property owner of 623 East Mill Street does include a one-time $65,000 payment. That includes the indefinite permanent easement, the temporary construction easement, access for those soil borings, the ability to rely on those soil borings in the report, and compensation for any damage caused by the parking lot for the large equipment during construction. So the memo outlined in the packet noted the city attorney is finalizing the agreement. We do have that finalized agreement here tonight, and it is before you. It is anticipated design, engineering, and prep work will continue here in 24 and then finalize in 25 with bidding and construction slated for 25 and 26. So staff's recommendation is to approve the Mill Pond Dam construction agreement as presented. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Chair will entertain a motion so we can discuss.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract for the Mill Pond Dam. I'll second the motion.
We have a first and a second to approve the Mill Pond Dam construction agreement. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll, please.
Gilson,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Tauschak,
Yes.
Hildebrand,
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Mattsdorf,
Yes.
Binder,
Yes.
Pankwitz.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. I want to make one comment to Tim and his team and Crystal. A lot of work went into this over a long period of time, and you stuck with it and brought it home. So thank you very much for working on that and moving this project ahead as 24 comes to a close, 25 and 26. So thank you very much. Our next item is a closed item just for the audience. When we come back out of close, there will be no vote taken, so you're able to shut down, and thank you for coming tonight. Moving on to item 9.